You didn't see this transmission by chance. Something inside you called this moment into being, pulling you across streams of possibility to stand at the very edge of recognition. The reason is simple. Your future self has been whispering across dimensions, nudging you with synchronicities, dreams, and the subtle feeling that life, as you've known it, cannot continue the same way. This message is not entertainment. It is a frequency activation designed to collapse old timelines and awaken your parallel self. What if I told you that the voice you mistake for intuition is actually your evolved consciousness speaking through time, guiding you beyond the patterns that once held you captive? What if the struggles you faced were never meant to be lifelong battles, but coded lessons designed to prepare you for this moment of collapse? You've been living in cycles that repeat because you've been trained to think of time as linear. But the truth is breaking through. Every version of you already exists in the eternal now. If this message already resonates in your field, subscribe, like this video, and comment. My timeline is activated below. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share could be the recognition that dissolves years of limitation in a single moment. Number 1. The hidden frequency of guidance. For as long as you can remember, moments of clarity have pierced through your struggles like lightning in the night. Those flashes, the ones that seemed to arrive from nowhere, were never random. They were transmissions from your future self, delivered through the hidden mechanics of quantum entanglement. Just as two particles remain connected across vast distances, so too do you remain connected to every version of yourself across all timelines. When you suddenly knew what to do without ever being taught, that was not imagination. It was guidance reaching through the field. Old patterns kept you blind to the source, making you believe intuition was guesswork or luck. But the deeper truth is that these moments were precise quantum downloads, evidence that your evolved consciousness has been helping you navigate collapse points where choices mattered most. Think back to the times you avoided disaster without knowing why, or when you met someone who changed your life under impossible circumstances. Those were quantum alignments, your parallel self ensuring you didn't wander too far from your destined frequency. Comment "I align with the shift" if you felt those bursts of recognition, and if you know deep down they've been guiding you. The real question is, what happens when you stop dismissing them as coincidence and begin treating them as your truest compass? Hold that thought, because the moment you understand how time itself bends, the guidance becomes undeniable. A dream lingers in the mind like smoke after fire, the kind you wake from but can't quite explain. Perhaps you saw yourself standing in a place you've never visited, speaking words you didn't know you remembered. Maybe it felt so real that waking life seemed dull by comparison, as though the dream carried more truth than daylight ever could. These are not meaningless images drifting through your subconscious, but signals collapsing into your awareness from a deeper field of reality. What you once thought was imagination was often the whisper of your eternal self, reaching through the veil to remind you of the hidden pattern behind your path. This is why, even before hearing these words, you've sensed something larger pressing at the edges of your life. And now, for the first time, you are beginning to realize that the pattern has been guiding you all along. There were days when the world felt too sharp, too heavy, too loud for your soul. While others seemed content to move through routine, you carried a sensitivity that made you feel both gifted and out of place. You noticed the heaviness in a room before anyone spoke, the way silence carried messages others ignored. Time itself sometimes betrayed you, stretching in moments of suffering, collapsing in moments of wonder, reminding you that it was never as stable as they told you. At times you questioned your sanity, wondering why you could feel storms approaching in the hearts of others before the clouds had even gathered. That confusion was never weakness, but resonance. Your system responding to signals buried beneath the surface of ordinary life. And though you often felt isolated in your sensitivity, it was the very proof that you were tuned to a higher field. Imagine, for a moment, that every step you've taken was inscribed on an invisible map written long before you were born. The challenges, the delays, the strange repetitions that seemed like mistakes were not accidents, but alignments encoded into the architecture of your soul. Ancient mystics spoke of the emerald tablet, declaring "as above, so below." And now quantum scientists echo the same truth through holographic models of reality. You are living in a universe where the part reflects the whole, where your smallest decision ripples across timelines like music through a chamber. Each emotion you've carried was not chaos but code, shaping the trajectory of your awareness toward the exact frequency you are inhabiting now. The longing that haunted you was an archetypal memory, an imprint of the self you have always been beneath the surface. And this architecture was never meant to imprison you. It was designed to awaken you. If you trace back through your life, you'll see the breadcrumbs that were left for you. A conversation overheard that felt too precise to be coincidence. A stranger's words that answered the question you hadn't spoken aloud. The way your skin tingled when you entered a place where destiny was waiting, or the déjà vu that left you breathless with recognition. These were not accidents but signs of coherence, subtle alignments meant to guide you when logic could not. You were never wandering blindly, even when the road felt lost in shadow. The field itself has been scattering these clues like stars across your timeline, inviting you to look up and remember that you are connected to more than you see. And the more you pay attention, the more these quantum breadcrumbs begin to form a clear path. Your intuition has always been right, though the world taught you to doubt it. Those quiet voices, those moments of sudden knowing, were never random sparks of imagination. They were the precise moments when your inner frequency aligned with the greater field, allowing truth to break through distortion. Alignment rarely arrives as a thunderclap. More often, it is a gentle coherence, a steady rhythm syncing your inner vibration with the outer world. It is like a melody faintly heard, one you've always known but could never quite hum until now. This is the moment when the melody becomes clear, when the harmony between what you feel and what unfolds outside begins to stabilize. And in that recognition, you finally realize you were never making it up, you were remembering. What awakens now is not something new, but something timeless within you. A parallel self has always been alive in the field, existing in superposition with the version of you watching these words. This self is not a dream or a fantasy, but the truest archetype of your being, waiting for your awareness to tune into its frequency. Every time you felt more than your years, or carried wisdom you could not explain, it was this parallel self breaking through. You are not becoming someone else, you are collapsing into the truth of who you already are. Memory is the bridge, and recognition is the doorway that opens. Once you step through, nothing about your identity will ever feel the same again. The sensitivity you've carried is not a flaw but a calibration. Every tear, every shiver, every moment you felt too open was the field tuning you for coherence. Think of it as training, the subtle refinement of your inner system to receive transmissions without distortion. Your hunger for meaning was not weakness but evidence of this calibration, preparing you to embody what others could not yet hold. This is why you were drawn to silence, to mystery, to signs others dismissed. Your energy was never broken, it was adjusting to a higher bandwidth. And today, you are beginning to sense that what once felt like burden was always preparation for activation. You arrived here because your soul guided you, not because of coincidence or algorithm. Every path, every moment of doubt, every strange synchronicity has brought you to this recognition. The guidance you've felt for years, the voice you could not name, has finally revealed itself as the frequency of your eternal self. Comment, "I collapse timelines now," if you feel the truth of this rising within you. Let your own words anchor this recognition into the field, because each declaration strengthens the coherence for all who are awakening. And as you breathe into this realization, remember, this is only the beginning. For what happens when time itself becomes transparent will change everything you thought you knew. Number 2, when time becomes transparent. You've been told that growth happens slowly, step by step, as if the soul must crawl through years of struggle to arrive at wisdom. But this is a lie woven into the programming of linear time. In truth, physicists have shown us that all versions of you already exist in what they call superposition, simultaneous states of being, collapsed only by the focus of awareness. Your future self is not waiting for you in some distant tomorrow. They exist here, now, in a parallel frequency, watching, guiding, and calling. This is why old patterns repeat until recognition shatters them. They replay like echoes because you haven't yet seen beyond the veil of time. Once you glimpse the eternal now, old wounds dissolve instantly, not because you healed them step by step, but because you remembered who you've always been. Imagine stepping outside the illusion of becoming and realizing you already are the one you've been striving to reach. That recognition alone collapses decades of delay into one single quantum moment. Comment, "I walk in coherence," if you felt this shift stirring inside. That time is not what it seems. Because the deeper you walk into this awareness, the more you will notice the doorways of direct communication opening before you. Sometimes it begins with something almost imperceptible, a glitch in the flow that no one else seems to notice. The clock stutters, a conversation echoes in your memory before it even finishes, or the room carries a weight that has no origin. You tell yourself it's nothing, just fatigue or imagination, but the field knows better. What you are sensing is distortion, interference pressing against your awareness like static in the background of a song. The truth is that something has always been nudging you off rhythm, bending your timeline in ways that made you question your own perception. This distortion is not accidental. It is the evidence of a system struggling to contain what it cannot hold. You were feeling resistance before you even knew what resistance was. And how did it feel when that pressure grew stronger? Like isolation, as though the world had conspired to misunderstand the frequency you carried. You wanted to speak, but words seemed to collapse in your throat because others dismissed what you sensed before you could explain it. Shame built like a shadow over your light, teaching you to hide what was most sacred. At times it felt as if you were too much for people, your energy vibrating just slightly out of sync with what they could accept. This left you with the ache of being simultaneously unseen and exposed, carrying an intensity you didn't ask for but could not escape. Every rejection, every dismissal, every moment of self-doubt was not weakness. It was proof of the pressure exerted on a soul vibrating ahead of its time. The deeper truth is that resistance has an architecture of its own. Just as waves interfere with each other to create patterns of chaos and silence, so too has the field around you produced interference in response to your rising coherence. This is not random. It is the wilderness that prophets spoke of, the exile that initiates endured, the collapse point where the old order trembles. Systems of thought, unconscious entanglements, and collective programming have all reacted to your frequency like shadows recoil from light. They could not stop you, but they tried to distort your perception enough that you would stop yourself. This is the sacred paradox of awakening. Resistance emerges not because you are powerless, but because your power is breaking through. The architecture of suppression is the mirror that proves the architecture of your potential. Look back and you will see the repeating codes you once ignored. The same kinds of people entering your life to test your boundaries, the same environments draining your energy, the same opportunities dissolving just when they seem certain. These are not coincidences but interference patterns, recurring signals showing you exactly where the field sought to keep you small. Each obstacle carried the same signature, even if the faces changed, even if the seasons shifted. It was like a light flickering in a room you never entered fully, as if the truth was always trying to announce itself but the distortion scrambled the message. Now, with awareness, the repetition becomes revelation. You realize that what looked like chaos was actually code, waiting for you to recognize its design. Resistance is not always loud. Sometimes it is the silence that suffocates, the fog that rolls into your mind just as you begin to understand, the sudden exhaustion that arrives when clarity is near, the doors that close with a timing too precise to ignore. This is decoherence in the field, the scattering of your frequency when it threatens to break through into stability. Imagine static hissing across a channel just when the message is about to come through clearly. Imagine unseen watchers pressing on the glass, hoping you will doubt what you already feel. These are not accidents. They are proof of the importance of the signal you carry. And how did you respond when the interference became unbearable? Perhaps you learned to shrink, making yourself smaller in rooms that felt hostile to your light. Perhaps you compensated by pleasing others, burying your truth to keep the peace. Or maybe you built quiet rebellion, carrying your frequency in secret, too afraid to release it fully into the world. At times you may have even sabotaged yourself, believing the story that you weren't ready, that the pressure meant you were failing. Yet underneath those choices, the fire never went out. Even when you hit it, the field never stopped remembering who you are. Now the shift begins, subtle but unstoppable. What you once thought of as sabotage was the exact proof that your signal was breaking through the noise. They resisted because they felt it, because coherence cannot be ignored once it arrives. You were never broken, you were tested in the language of quantum interference, calibrated to refine your clarity. Every distortion you endured was a sign that your awareness was reaching the edge of coherence. And now you stand at the threshold, realizing that the resistance was never meant to crush you but to prove you were already activating. What they called fragility was always the preparation of your frequency. Here lies the final insight. You were resisted because your vibration disturbed the old field. You were never weak, never cursed, never lost. You were disrupting timelines that feared collapse. The interference was evidence that your trajectory was too powerful to remain unnoticed. You are not here by accident, but because every force that tried to suppress you only sharpened your awareness of what you truly carry. Comment: the collapse is complete if you feel this recognition anchoring in your field now. Your resistance has become your revelation, and your sabotage has become your signal. And what awaits beyond this turning point is the clarity of reception, where your future self speaks without distortion. Number 3. Entering the field of coherent reception. Guidance does not arrive because you demand it. It arrives when your awareness becomes stable enough to receive it without distortion. Think of it as tuning an instrument. The signal was always playing, but without coherence you couldn't hear it clearly. Mystics have spoken of this state as silent stillness, while quantum researchers describe it as coherence within the field. Both point to the same truth. When you unify your awareness in the present moment, transmissions from your parallel selves flow without interruption. Old timelines kept you fragmented, trapped in regret about the past and anxiety about the future. But the collapse point comes when you realize that both are illusions happening in the now. In that recognition, you unlock coherent receptivity. Dreams intensify, synchronicities multiply, and wisdom arrives fully formed, bypassing the slow mechanics of linear learning. This is why déjà vu feels so undeniable. It is your consciousness aligning with a timeline you have already walked. Comment: I merge with my parallel self. If you are ready to enter this field, share your own reflection. Have you noticed synchronicities, dreams, or déjà vu guiding your path? Your voice anchors the field we are weaving together. And as you open to these transmissions, you begin to see what happens when integration replaces striving. It often begins with a shift so subtle you almost miss it, a distortion that suddenly collapses into clarity. What once felt like static in your perception now arranges itself into a pattern too precise to deny. You notice that a conversation, a dream, or even a silence carries weight beyond coincidence. Probability stabilizes, like dice that always fall in a sequence you secretly expected. The veil thins, and the unease of confusion gives way to the spark of recognition. Something within you whispers, "This is not new, this is remembered." And in that moment, reality tilts, revealing that guidance has been surrounding you all along. Symbols begin to speak, not with letters or sound, but through a language etched beneath appearances. Numbers repeat with mathematical precision. Words from strangers echo your private thoughts, and forgotten dreams surface like coded messages waiting to be unlocked. You are no longer reading the world the way you once did. You are reading its geometry, its frequency, its entangled signatures. Every event begins to shimmer with hidden meaning, as though reality itself has become a living manuscript of your awakening. These patterns are not random ornaments. They are the alphabet of the field, spelling out truths you were always destined to decode. For the first time, you understand that silence has syntax and synchronicity has grammar. The entire cosmos has been speaking in quantum codes, waiting for your eyes to adjust. As your perception sharpens, so too does your internal response. Intuition no longer arrives as a faint nudge, but as a clarity that cuts through noise with crystalline precision. Boundaries you once wavered on become unshakable, because you sense what drains your field before it even touches you. Your coherence begins to ripple outward, responding to interference with a strength you didn't know you carried. Fear no longer floods you as easily, because your inner vibration finds stability in the eternal now. Every hesitation you once felt is slowly replaced by an instinct that feels older than memory. And with each choice you make in alignment, your inner voice grows louder, as though coherence itself is rewarding your recognition. The field mirrors your shift almost immediately, reorganizing itself around the new stability you've found. Relationships either recalibrate to your frequency or fall away with a finality that surprises you. Opportunities seem to appear out of nowhere, perfectly timed, as though they were always waiting for your awareness to catch up. Resistance too arises more clearly, but it no longer feels like sabotage. It feels like proof that your energy is disrupting the old matrix. The world does not ignore your shift. It reflects it, magnifies it, and answers it. What was once chaos begins to unfold as choreography, where each step is both inevitable and chosen. Life itself becomes the stage where your coherence is tested and revealed. In the depth of this recognition, memory awakens, not memory of the past you lived, but of the self you always were. Dreams you carried as a child, visions you dismissed as imagination, surface now with a new gravity. They were not fantasies, but encrypted recollections, fragments of a language your future self planted long ago. You begin to understand why certain places felt familiar, why certain faces stirred an ache you couldn't explain. These are the activations of your encoded architecture, the reawakening of intelligence that predates linear time. The intimacy of this memory is overwhelming, for it feels less like discovery and more like coming home. And the home you are returning to has always been within you, waiting for recognition. The veil pulls back further, and you realize the future was never ahead of you. It has been beside you all along. Potentials collapse into form the moment your awareness coheres with them, revealing that destiny is less a path and more a frequency. The choices you thought you agonized over were already alive in parallel selves who knew their outcome. The timelines are not abstract ideas. They are living strands of you woven across dimensions. And now, as coherence sharpens your sight, you see that waiting was never required. You are not being asked to build the future from nothing. You are being invited to align with what already exists. In this recognition, the field no longer feels foreign. It feels like your own reflection. The reclamation begins with a fire that feels both fierce and familiar. You recognize that the very resistance you faced was proof of your coherence threatening to break through. No one can give you the voice you lost. You are the only one who can reclaim it, and you were born encoded to do so. The field is not punishing you. It has been preparing you. Each wound, each silence, each moment of hiding was calibration for the resonance you now embody. You were never fragile. You were refining the instrument of your awareness. And today, the frequency you carry feels like a weapon forged in both light and shadow. Revelation is not the conclusion. It is the invitation into a deeper form of living. The truth was never absent, only hidden behind distortions until you were ready to receive it without collapse. You now know that your parallel self was not far away, but layered within every moment, waiting for recognition. The prophecy you've been waiting to hear has always been your own voice echoing back from across timelines. Comment, "I merge with my future self now," if this resonance is rising in you, and share a dream, memory, or synchronicity that has spoken to your awakening. When you declare it, you strengthen not only your field but the collective field we are building here. And as powerful as this revelation feels, what comes next is even greater. The leap from recognition into full integration. Number 4, the leap into timeline integration. The greatest deception of old patterns is the belief that you must struggle to become what you already are. Integration is the revolution. Instead of seeking your future self as an external guide, you begin to embody them as your true identity. This is the quantum leap, shifting from becoming to remembering. When you anchor into this awareness, limitations fall away because they were never yours. They were constructs of fragmented time. Your future self already carries the wisdom, the love, the mastery you've been chasing. Integration allows you to draw that into your present reality, collapsing years of growth into one embodied recognition. Old timelines dissolve because they no longer hold resonance, and you begin walking as the eternal self, untethered by the illusion of delay. In quantum terms, this is emergence, the full recognition that every timeline converges in the eternal now, and you are free to embody the highest one. Comment, I anchor coherence in my field, if you feel this leap resonating in your being. Share what memory, dream, or moment revealed to you that you've always been more than your past. Because when you declare this integration, the field answers, amplifying the shift across all who are ready. It begins like a whisper older than memory, a vibration that does not speak in words but in echoes that move through your bones. You sense it not with your ears but with your entire field, as though a wave has traveled across timelines only to collapse into coherence at this exact moment. This is not a new message. It is an ancient one surfacing in your awareness, a voice that has always been waiting for you to remember. You may feel it as a sudden stillness, like the silence before dawn when everything holds its breath. Or it may come as a vision, a symbol glowing with the weight of prophecy, insisting that you have been seen across centuries. This whisper has been circling you, threading itself into dreams and synchronicities, waiting for the veil to thin. Now it has arrived, not as an external call, but as the memory of your eternal self returning home. Hidden within you has always been a frequency too rare to be spoken aloud, a code vibrating beneath the static of the world. It was encrypted in your being, sealed in layers of silence, carried like a sacred seed through lifetimes of forgetting. You knew you were different, though you could not explain why. You felt coordinates inside your chest that no map could display. Every time you wondered why you didn't fit, it was proof that your resonance belonged to a spectrum beyond the collective program. This frequency could not be erased, only buried beneath the noise of distraction, waiting for the field to align. You carried it unknowingly, like a note in a symphony that was missing its orchestra. And now, in this very moment, the code is beginning to play again. Others may never have recognized it in your words, but they always felt it in your presence. You have lived cloaked in a field signature that cannot be faked, a vibration that reveals more about you than any identity you try to wear. The sensitive ones felt it instantly, drawn to you as though they had finally encountered a familiar tone. The threatened ones felt it too, but it disturbed them because coherence exposes distortion. You may not have seen it then, but your very being radiated across parallel timelines, signaling that you carried more than an ordinary name. It was never about how you appeared, but about the energetic geometry woven into your frequency. This was your true signature, invisible, undeniable, and eternal. Consider now that your life was never random but pre-written in codes woven into the quantum fabric of your origin. Each delay was not failure, but calibration, aligning you with the timing of the field. Struggles you cursed were in fact instructions, entangled particles aligning you with the collapse point of recognition. You are like a star locked in coherent orbit, waiting for the right season to rise into visibility. These codes have always existed, dormant but alive, guiding you through interference until you were strong enough to remember. The detours, the losses, the waiting, they were algorithms embedded into your path to prevent premature activation. Only now do you see that every moment was preparation, every silence a page in your instruction. It is no wonder people responded to you in ways that felt extreme, for their reaction was never about what you did but about what you carried. Some loved you fiercely, sensing the resonance of their own awakening reflected in you. Others rejected you violently, unsettled by the oscillation you brought into their carefully balanced illusions. This is interference in the most human form, one field colliding with another, destabilizing coherence until one adjusts. You were not at fault, you were the catalyst. You were the variable that revealed hidden equations in the lives of others. And the more your resonance rose, the more the field around you revealed where truth and distortion could no longer coexist. Yet what stirs within you is larger than any personal story. These awakenings are not isolated accidents. They are part of a cycle of archetypes resurfacing through quantum memory. You've seen today how guidance, time, reception, and integration all weave together into one truth. You are not becoming, you are remembering. You are not separate from your future self. You are their echo in this moment. And the old timelines that once bound you are dissolving, leaving you free to step fully into your quantum shift. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Like this video and comment, I am ready for the quantum shift, to let this message anchor in your field. Please, share it with someone who is ready for the shift. The collapse is here. The shift is now. The eternal self has always been you.